and it's still going. Yeah,
Oh,
look at
yeah.
that. And now we're live.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you your moment to share and whatnot.
It's not there yet. I gotta wait till it
I'm gonna
shows up.
give people an opportunity to
There we go.
bask in on my new background that I've got going on here.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's well, I mean, whoever's listening won't be able to see it, but
Right. Oh, that's true. All right, I'm ready.
all right. Let's I just shared it too. I'm a team player.
Oh, yeah, you are.
Yeah. All right, let's roll this intro and get it going. And go.
Shut up and sit down.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. As always, I am the Dharma guy, and he is the one, the only, the man, the
Oh
myth, the
God,
legend,
really?
the one
Really?
percenter, the Dope
Really?
Doctor.
Oh man,
What's up, the Dope Doctor?
I'm good. I'm at our studio today. I'm at this radio station.
Yeah, I
Here.
saw the blue on the walls. I was like, that does not
Yeah.
look like a hotel.
No, I'm at Surf Monkey Studios right now, right here in Sanford, Florida.
I see that. I have not been there in a while, actually.
Nope.
I haven't been there since all those floods and stuff happened.
Yeah, yeah. Well, luckily this room was untouched, but
It was
some
like
of
the
the
only
other.
one in Sanford that wasn't touched then, because
No. The whole building was flooded. This room was not flooded.
yeah, it was the one room in all of Sanford that was not touched.
Yeah, no, I got a thing with the maker.
I see that.
Me and the maker have a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Anyways, well, welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is our Dharma Time Hour. If you guys are watching it live, then you're gonna realize that today's not Tuesday. Live today is Friday. And as always, if you want to watch live and comment live, make sure you're following us on social media. That is at Dope and Dharma, and that's either on YouTube, Twitch, or Facebook Live. You can also follow us individually. He is at the Dope Doctor. I'm at the Dharma Guy. Therefore, you get updates anytime we go live. If you want to listen to this at your leisure, you can do so on any podcasting platform. Just look up, you guessed it, Dope and Dharma. All right, so I have this snazzy background, by the way, for those who are
I see
listening.
that. I thought you were glowing.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a new thing I'm trying out with the background because I figured people got tired of looking at my daughter's room in the background, so I would try to have something at least semi-professional, I guess. Who knows? Maybe it'll work. Maybe I'll get a bunch of comments and people tell me they look stupid. Who knows?
By the way, for those of you that don't know, Trinity does leave his house. He does.
Yes.
Just not for our shows.
No. It's a big moment every day trying to figure out what shirt I want to wear. So anyways, all right, man, let's talk loneliness, right? Let's talk about the big L word, right? The thing that I guess a lot of people have experienced but nobody wants to talk about, right? Like I posted a poll on our social media, and
what did you find out?
it was 100%. My question was, have you experienced loneliness? Yes, no, or not sure. And it was 100% yes. So it seems like everybody who took the poll absolutely has felt loneliness. And I think there's reasons for that. But so there was a spiritual saying that I heard early on that kind of changed my idea about connectivity and about interdependence. And that was basically, we're different, right? We're individuals, much the same way as a raindrop hits the ocean. However, once it hits the ocean, it's kind of like is the ocean, right? So in life, we're kind of like that. I used to operate under the perspective of, I'm just trying to take care of mine, right? Like, that's my issue, my problem, my life. Never really worried about other people, never saw the interconnectedness between it. I used to operate like I was an island.
Right.
I think a lot of people still do.
Mm-hmm.
As I got further in my spiritual practice, I started to realize that was 100% unequivocally bullshit. It is. No matter how much we want to try to act like we're independent, we're really not.
Okay.
It might feel good to say, but we're lying to ourselves and other people. So and one of the ways I would explain that, like back in the day at Tropical, when I was running groups there, I would tell people, look, if I'm able to have this group here, and it was like 10 people in that group, if all 10 of you guys walk out of here and you're happier and you're putting less stress and less anger out into the world,
Mhm.
Is that not the world now that my children are going to grow up in, with 10 less people putting anger out into it?
Right.
And in that sense, I started to realize, at least for myself, that's how I started to kind of make the connection of, hey, we're not these isolated, islands. Um,
Mhm.
and I think on a cerebral level, I guess we kind of get that,
Mhm.
because if I were to say, hey, did you make the microphone you're talking into right now? Well, of course not, right? Did you pave the roads that you drove in? Did you build the car? So I think in that sense, we
Right.
all are fully aware
Right.
that we're not, isolated, and we're not alone. Unless you're one of those individuals who are like off the grid and you make everything and stuff. And if you're doing that, you're probably not listening to the show.
Not listening.
So then you have to use somebody else's Wi-Fi network or whatever. Um, but I think on a different level, like on an emotional level, I
Mhm.
that I don't think that we all get that yet, right?
Mhm.
I think we're still kind of stuck in this idea of us and them, right? Or me and them.
Mhm.
It's me, my issues, my whatever, and then everybody else's.
Right.
Or if somebody else is going through something and be like, oh man, I'm sorry for you, man. But that, like, that's your thing. Or if we ask for advice, the advice is usually like, you got to pick yourself up, you got to handle that problem, as opposed to we collectively.
Right.
So I think that's what I want to talk about today, man. What are your immediate thoughts?
I don't know. I'm feeling kind of alone right now on my own little island. Just
Yeah,
the
that's
little
good.
raindrop that I am, just
That's okay.
wondering where the ocean is that I can drop it into, Trinity.
You're in it. You're in
Yeah.
it.
Right.
We have thousands of people listening, and,
Yeah.
we're in it.
No, I look, I like it because I think that whether we truly are lonely could be argued, right? There's always people out there that want to, maybe argue that point with you, but it's the perspective of the individual experiencing it, right? So if they feel
Sure.
lonely, whether you're there, whether you're part of their life or not, that's how they feel about it, and it's like trauma, it's like sadness,
Yeah.
it's like a lot of other um, emotions. You can't judge it for someone else. They have to
Sure.
interpret it themselves how they want to interpret it. And I think there's a lot of people that are lonely in crowds. I felt very alone in crowds when I was not doing well in my life, even though the perception was I was doing great. Um, you know, that's why I was using. I was using because that's how I connected with others. I was using things that made me feel connected to others, or at least maybe not care about maybe the internal insecurities and loneliness that I was experiencing. But it was basically just a way to pass time.
Right.
Uh, and for probably a little bit too many years, in my estimation, at the time, I felt like I was just living to die. I was just living, wasn't living. I was just taking time on this earth until it's over. So I'm going to do
Right.
whatever I want with it, express it how I want, with whoever I want, but not really connecting with anyone, not really involving any personal feelings with anyone. It was temporary, and that's how I looked at it.
Yeah.
By the way, before I forget, to all the people that are watching on Facebook Live, we got Pete, Marissa. How are you guys doing? I just want to say hi to them because they continue
Absolutely.
to come back and say hi. So I want to make sure that saying hi back to them.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Vincent said happy Friday. And then Marissa, she
Mhm.
actually put up a couple
Mhm.
things. This one here says, I noticed the other day someone gave advice that you could tell was given on the other side of an issue. What often happens is you're disconnected after the relief of it being over, and you can't relate and are less compassionate to those going through it.
Mm.
I put can't because her next one followed that up with a correction, making it can't
Right,
instead of
right.
can. I can read, guys. Yeah, I think
Maybe you're just autocorrect.
yeah.
Trinity
Oh,
autocorrect Phillips.
bro, autocorrect sucks, man.
Mm.
There's some days I like it, other days in my morning jokes, it's like the bane of my existence. But I digress.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think loneliness is a very interesting thing because I think you nailed it, right? When you said that people can be lonely in crowds or lonely,
Mhm.
in a relationship, even, or lonely
Mhm.
with friends,
Right.
because loneliness to me is not defined as in the physical being in the presence of another human being, right? Like, I think it's an emotional thing. I think loneliness
Mhm.
is a feeling.
Mhm.
It's nobody gets me, or I don't truly matter to those around me, or those kinds of things.
Mhm.
Um, and so and I guess one of the things, because you asked me right before this started, what are we trying to get out there? Like, what,
Right.
message, if you will. And I think one of the messages I kind of would like to get out there is we could do more, right? Like we collectively, if so right now, I guess I'm speaking to the individuals who could play a role in somebody else's life. We can do more. In other words,
Okay.
your loneliness is not my my issue, if you will. It's not my responsibility.
Mhm.
But as another person who's connected to other people in this world, it kind of is my responsibility. Other words, I can do more as a person to make sure that the people who come inside my orbit don't feel lonely in my presence. That's kind of what I mean.
That's an interesting point because it makes me think. Am I interacting with you or am I connecting with you? And there's a
Yes.
difference, right? I mean,
Yes.
we can interact with others, but it doesn't mean we're actually connecting with them. And it's the connectivity that destroys the loneliness.
Yeah.
That combats the loneliness.
Well, and we're not even set up for that, right? Like somebody even asked me, I'm gonna put these are in no particular order, but here's the
Okay.
first one here is technology creating isolation?
Hmm.
Somebody asked that.
Yeah, that was an interesting question.
Yeah, and it is, right? Like technology has been such an amazing tool, right? Because
Right.
technology can be defined as fire, wheels, clothing, antibiotics, medicine. Like technology in that sense has been amazing. It's created longevity as far as our life is concerned, comfort, just a plethora of things that have been net positive for us, period. However, technology has also kind of done some things that aren't so good for us. And I think when it comes to loneliness, I think technology does play a pretty massive role, right? So so my wife and I would joke sometimes about how like today's kids just they're growing up different. They're not like when I was a kid. It was one of those things where you go outside, you don't come back in until the street lights are on. You get on your bike and you ride for God only knows how far and do whatever. And I got into all sorts of things. I mean, we had forts, we played manhunt, we did all sorts of cool things. And I had just a ton of friends and people I knew. And my day kind of revolved around those connections with people. When you would get off school or on a Saturday, you would wake up and sometimes you might have a friend sleep over. You slept at their house, and then you'd wake up and like, hey, what are we getting into today?
Right.
You might go to the local spot where everybody's at and kind of see who's there, and you go out and have fun. Whereas kids these days don't necessarily live that same kind of lifestyle, but they don't feel like they're missing out, right? Because they still are able to have conversations, but I don't think they get the same kind of connection as we used to. I think that the connection you get when you're talking to somebody over the phone, texting somebody, connected through maybe a gaming chat or something like that, while I think that connection is better than nothing, I think that we don't value the actual human connection, like one-on-one talking to somebody like we used to. Like I think it's starting to get overlooked. And in that sense, I think technology has definitely hurt us. If you would have told my mother when she was a kid, or even us when we were kids, that there will be a day where you can earn a living, you could buy all your groceries, you could do all your shopping, and you could be sustainable in your home without ever seeing another human being, we would have never understood that concept. But right now, we can do jobs from home where you basically don't talk to another person. You do data entry or whatever. Then you can go from that to have DoorDash deliver you food or Instacart deliver you your groceries. You can go to Amazon and buy all of your necessities, your toothbrush, your toothpaste, your clothes, whatever it is. You can do everything from online and never have to actually physically leave your house. Even banking, you can do online banking. There's certain things that you used to have to show up for that you no longer have to do. And in that sense, I think technology has hurt us and it's made us more lonely. There's been studies out there that we are the most quote unquote connected as a human race that we've ever been in the history of man, but we're also the most depressed and the most lonely that we've ever been. And I think those things are connected. What are your thoughts? What do you think?
What's weird is if you talk to young kids, young children, they want more friends. Like they want to be connected to more people, right? They want to be around other kids. And then it seems like if you talk to adults and you say that exact same thing you just said, they're going to say, oh, I prefer it that way. I don't want to interact with anyone. I'd rather stay at home and have everything delivered to me. Yeah. So how do we get from the point where we wanted everyone to be our friend to the point where all we wanted was our one pet and people available online or on the phone, and that was it.
Yeah.
Is it through failed relationships? Is it through being disappointed in relationships? Is it through the perception of our victimness, our victimhood from people letting us down or disappointing us? Like how did we get to the point from wanting to be around a bunch of other people to not really wanting anyone around? How did that happen?
Yeah, I would say probably a combination of several factors, right? Like I think it's inconvenient, right, to have to go out of your way to spend time with others,
To get
right?
dressed, Trinity, to put on anything else other than a tank top?
Exactly. It can be inconvenient to do that.
Right.
Not only that, but if you have friends that are, in other parts of the world, it's more convenient, obviously, just to talk on the phone real quick.
Mhm.
But I also think you hit it on the head too, in the sense that I think a large component of that is pain, right? We've been hurt by the people around us.
Hmm.
And then, so we kind of start to have this distrust of others. We start to isolate. We start
Right.
to create loneliness, almost in the sense of saying, they're probably going to hurt me, so what's the point? You know what I mean? Keep them at an arm's distance. Don't really strive for connection, because they're probably going to let me down and hurt me anyways. So it's more convenient. It's easier just to kind of get up, go to work, and do my thing. And yet
Hmm.
I'll wake up every day yearning for that, but I won't. I'll lie to myself and tell myself that I'm okay with it. Like, I think that's the cycle that we're in. I mean, in talking to you prior to the show, I don't really do Uber that much, because where we live, I kind of have my own car and I don't need to.
Mhm. Yeah.
But it's my understanding, and even in Uber, right? So Uber, you're dependent on another human being to come and pick you up and take you where you got to go. And apparently there's like an option in the app that says, I don't want to talk to you. Like, don't
Yeah.
talk to me. I don't want conversation. So it's like, we've gotten to that point where we're even like, don't even talk to me. I'm going to sit in the same space with you. And a
Right.
car is kind of an intimate space, man. Like,
Yeah.
if you're in the front seat, you're literally within like a foot of that person. And even if you're in the back seat, you're in their personal space, and you're occupying that within like a foot or two from them, and you're just dead silent. Like, that's what has happened. Like, why is that so cool?
Well, see, I think you hit it on the head when you said that you haven't taken many Ubers. I use Lyft more often than Uber now.
Okay.
I'm not going to get into that, but when I do Lyft, there are times where I'm like, why didn't I check that off or something like that? Because there's some people that are very lonely apparently, and so that's why they're driving, and so they can't wait for you to get in the car so they can learn all about you, tell you all about them, pitch their ideas to you. I get pitched business opportunities. I get pitched so many different things in the back seat, and like I'm trapped. There's nowhere to go. Like, I literally have to be like, I have to excuse me, I have to take this call, and I call somebody or something, because sometimes like I said, I just feel trapped sometimes, unfortunately, and sometimes it's awkward that they're so quiet.
Right.
But you could tell that when you get in the car, bro. Some people, they're driving you, but let's not talk to them. I told you about the one time that I was in one, and I could have swore I was in a serial killer's car, right?
Oh no, I don't think I've heard that story yet, but
dude, that's a whole other story, man. But I took a picture secretly, of course, of the person from my view, and everything. And it was because when I put my stuff in the back of their trunk, there was the Visqueen.
Was there a body back there?
Wait, there was a roll of Visqueen plastic wrap.
Visqueen plastic? I don't think I've ever heard of that before.
That plastic wrap that you like put it on the floor, so if you kill somebody and they spill guts and blood, it doesn't mess up the floor.
It's got a name, Visqueen. Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Maybe I'm saying it wrong, but somebody out there, English is my second language. Don't make fun of the Mexican, bro. so the plastic wrap, right? Then there was rope, and like a mil máscaras mask. The masks that like wrestlers.
Okay.
The
luchador.
The luchador masks.
Yeah.
It was a mask like that. It was that type of mask, unless it was a mask for other purposes. But those three things, and I still got in the car, Trinity. Like it was a very messy trunk. I put that in the trunk, and it didn't click. Like it didn't click what I just saw, because I'm not expecting it. I was
the male privilege you have.
I was going to the airport. Yeah, it is the male privilege for sure, because I figured I can get out of it, right? So then I get in the car, and then it just starts. What did you just witness? What did you just see? And then there was like a Book of Revelations kind of book right next to me, like when I'm sitting in the seat, I look over
Right.
and there's this huge Bible, and I'm thinking, all right, that's not. But when you start picturing it all together, I'm thinking, this person has some sort of agenda that I'm not really. There's something going on in this car,
It's going
and
to save your
then,
soul.
well, then he missed my exit. He missed, like, I know the airport. It just said airport that way. Trinity. We started going down a road, like we
Like,
passed
no,
the
I know a
airport.
shortcut.
Yeah, we're no longer on the main road. We're on the side road. And I said, wasn't that the road to the airport? He goes, oh, was it? Oh, it's this darn navigation. And I'm thinking, are you lying to me? Are we about to use this plastic wrap and rope? And
That's funny.
dude, I started taking pictures and sending it to my family and said, this is a weird situation. I started texting them just
That's
in
awesome.
case. Yeah, bro. That was anyway. It was a trauma. I dealt with it. I'm good now.
There you
But
go.
when I got out of that car, I was like, I had to give at least a review of something because the car did not smell good. The trunk was messy. I took a picture of the trunk before leaving. Remind me to show you the picture. I took a picture real quick. I tried to, like when you're trying to
That's
take a
awesome.
picture, but not because,
Right.
like young people can probably take a picture real quick and not get caught. I'm an old person, so I'm like,
You can't get your glasses on. We was just here.
right. But I got it. So remind me to show it to you.
Sure. But yeah, I mean, I get that point, right? Like I get
Right.
not wanting to be bothered by somebody, right?
Right.
But I also think that that's kind of the issue. Is I think that we're all so focused on ourselves that we forget that we're sharing space with other people, and those other people might just need to have a conversation with somebody. Like I think of the violence that we deal with, so many school shootings. How many of them could have been, prevented had they just had people in their lives that made them feel less lonely? But it's like this weird thing happened, and I don't know what caused it or when, because it happened well before my lifetime started.
Right.
This notion of being independent is the goal, right? Somehow being dependent on other people around you makes you weak. Like somehow that happened, and I don't know when. I grew up with it, right? Like I know you hate the John Wayne thing, but that's what was expressed to me. But Clint Eastwood, John Wayne, Branson,
Clint Eastwood.
all of those.
Bronson, bro. Bronson, not
Yeah.
Branson. It's not
Whatever.
Missouri.
Yeah. My point is that kind of became the de facto way of being. Somehow it was like a badge of honor to like not depend on the people around you and isolate yourself. And I don't think that that's healthy. Like I don't
need
first
you.
of all, as we covered, like like I do need people, right? And I don't think that makes me weak. I need to see my kids, man. I need to know that my kids love me. I need to know my kids think I'm a good dad. Otherwise, why am I doing what I'm doing?
Well, we took the self-soothing a little bit too far. Like, look, I get it. So as a counselor, and I get you therapists out there, you had to have, encourage somebody to give themselves their happiness. Don't depend on other people to give you happiness.
Yeah.
Self-soothing, taking care of yourself first, all that stuff. I get why you started explaining it, but the problem is when you give these notions or you give this ideology to patients, the community is going to take it and run with it in a different direction, and it went too far. Like so many other things that get told in a therapeutic session, it goes out there in reality and it gets overblown by everybody that wants to pretend to be a therapist. All those TikTokers that that think they're therapists. So there's people out there that took that and said, "Oh, I have to take care of me only," instead of taking care of me first. Or only I can make myself happy, instead of acknowledging, no, it's important that I make myself happy, but it's also important to accept the happiness others are giving and providing for me as well. I have to be an open vessel and appreciate things around me. Yes. But other people can help me understand and appreciate things just like I can help myself appreciate things. So I think there's both things are true. Like we say often on this show and our other shows, both things are true. That you have to take care of yourself. Yes. But can you let me help you enjoy life as well? Because that provides me joy. That provides me a level of happiness. When I'm part of your happiness, that makes me a happier person as well. I need to serve. Serving others is a level of enjoyment that I get that I never thought I could experience. I never even thought I wanted to experience it until I allowed myself to experience joy from helping others. And then it's like, wow, I want more of that. Who would have thought that would have been so pleasurable? I thought self-serving was pleasurable. No, it's actually serving others, which is even more pleasurable, or a different level of pleasure that I didn't expect to have.
And that's where I think we could do better. And what I mean by that is acknowledging that, right? Being appreciative of that, seeing that.
Right.
I think that's where we could do a better job with those around us, is acknowledging, hey, you know what? That person's trying to be there for me. That person's doing something nice for me. That person's trying to bring joy to my life. And that's a good thing. That's a cool thing. I appreciate that, right? Because it's way better than the alternative. You know, I'd much rather have somebody try to bring joy to my life than try to bring misery and stress to my life, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, we took it too far. Like I said, with technology these days, there were so many things that were interpersonal type stuff that we've like created apps for. One of the ones I said to you earlier before the show was even meditation. Right? Meditation used to be done with other people. You would go into a big hall and there'd be a ton of people there. I mean, we're obviously going back hundreds, if not thousands of years, but that's how it kind of started. Was somebody would lead the meditation, you'd be in a group with a bunch of other people. Even now, there are meditation groups out there for those, but there's also a meditation app now where you can just do it solo. That was meant to be a group activity, right? Like the idea of doing it solo is kind of crazy. And you have there's girlfriend apps now. I'm sure there's boyfriend apps as well, but basically apps where you can kind of have the simulation of a connected relationship with somebody, where you get to talk and ask questions and feel like that person loves you. Now with Chat GPT, it's even worse. Like it's not worse in the sense of it's more effective. It's more realistic than it used to be.
Wait, time out. Please explain. Tell the old man in the room what the hell you're talking about.
There are like girlfriend experience apps where you could download and have what would compare to somebody just like talking to you and asking how your day was and making you feel like that they care for you, like an emotional response from a computer, essentially. And that was before ChatGPT. Now that with AI, the improvements that are happening, it's gotten even more improved, where like you can't, sometimes nowadays you can't even tell the difference between if there's a human on the other end or not. People are doing that not because they would rather have an electronic spouse or lover or whatever you want to call it, but because they feel so lonely, they feel that that's the only way they can get it. And I think that there's body pillows now that are shaped like humans. So instead of having an actual human,
you're going too far. Wait, you're going too far. I'm still stuck on the app.
That's our point.
Then we can get to the body pillow thing. Hold on, because I want to know about that too. Now that you brought that up, but I don't want to miss the. Sure. So you're saying there's an app, and it's not like a 976 number app. You're saying that it's an app that is not a real person on the other end. So it's not someone in Thailand or some other country that's talking with you that you're paying money to.
There's multiple apps.
You're saying that it's an AI you're talking to.
Yes. There's
no real person on the other end just getting paid to say whatever they want to say.
Just a chat bot that's making you feel like you're the most important person on the planet to them. And people are downloading the apps for.
Come on, you got to be kidding me.
In South Korea, there's actually people who are marrying said chatbots. There's people who are marrying electronic pieces of equipment for that. That to me is a bit extreme. However, it goes to show that instead of spending time and effort and building real connections, we're using technology to, circumvent that whole process. And then we're wondering why we're lonely. Well, it's because you're using technology in place of what human beings should be doing. So yeah, there's chatbots where, and they're even, like I said, that was before ChatGPT. Now that ChatGPT's out, it's even worse.
So when I was a kid, I saw the movie Weird Science, and I thought that would be phenomenal. You know what I mean?
It's kind of here.
He doesn't even have his license, Lisa. Remember that? I mean, that was a great movie. Yeah. I thought it would be fantastic if you could actually make that. You're saying that exists now, and then they have a pillow. Yes. Now let's get to your pillow thing. You said there's a human pillow that's not a human.
Yeah. Yeah, there's like human size and shaped pillows, so that way you can get the feeling of sleeping with another human, even though you're not sleeping with another human.
There's
Now, of
there's my
course, with
answer
the
to my
chat
travel
stuff,
problems. There's my answer to my travel problems because
yeah,
my issue, I can't sleep in hotels because Dana's not there with me. You're saying if I take
yeah.
this pillow with me,
There's people who do that for that reason. There's people who do it for a multitude of reasons, but one of the reasons is like if you're away and you can't sleep with your spouse and you need to have that kind of physicality with you, you can do that. Yeah, that's my
Christmas
point.
list, Christmas list.
Human sized pillow.
I want a Dana pillow.
But they exist,
But
right?
well,
Like that's my
if
point.
that one doesn't exist and the Chiquita one does, I'll take that one. But if there's a Dana one, I'll take that one.
Sure. But so that's my thing is we spend so much time and effort and money in technology to fill in what human beings should actually be filling in.
Right.
And we don't seem to collectively understand how that isn't working, and that's a problem. Like there's a study done, I think it was a couple years ago now. There's a study done where they asked, they compared the answers from people in the 1990, I think it was 90 or 93. And then they asked again to see like how many people you have around you that you would consider close friends. It's something like 30% lower now than it was in 1990. So as technology's improved and as we've expanded, there's more people on Earth now than there ever have been before, right? What are we at, like 3 billion, I think now? And yet individuals, when asked, they feel like they have fewer friends than they've ever had before. Like that's crazy, right? Like as we've gotten more connected, right, we have more abilities to have friends in multiple different, like our ability to have friends has opened up and expanded more so than it's ever done before, and yet we have less friends now than we did 30 years ago. That's crazy to me.
Well, not according to our social media thing, our friends list.
Yeah. Dude, I have so many people on my thing that I have no clue who these people are. I mean, don't get me wrong, I wouldn't. And I've actually thought about doing that, right? I've thought about going through and just asking every single person, hey, like, tell me something about, and try to start a conversation. But even in that instance, it's inconvenient, right? Because I have to, like, I don't know, depends on which social media platform you're talking about.
That would take a long time.
That would take a long time. And then not only that, but half of them probably wouldn't care anyways, right? Half of them probably added me because I'm just a number, right? Like it wouldn't be received very well, right. Or it would be thought of like, is this dude trying to like hit on me now or so? Who knows?
Like right? It'll be like the hey. You get those too, right? They go, hey. It's like, well, man, don't even. As soon as you start off with hey and nothing else behind it.
Yeah. But no, I definitely think that the technology has been a major contributing factor as to why we collectively as a person or as a species, if you will, as a people have become more and more lonely because we do more things to disconnect ourselves from each other than ever before. And like they're good at it, like once again, it's all over the news right now, AI. So not only did we create a chat bot, but now we're investing all this time to make it an even smarter and even better chat bot. So, which is going to do nothing but make us even more disconnected from one another. There was somebody was messaging me the other day on my Facebook, and I've gotten quite a few of them over the years of just messages. And a lot of times I've gotten messages from bots, right? Just it's a fake thing. And you can kind of tell sometimes like, come on, man, it's a bot, whatever. And you delete it. But I've had a couple where I couldn't even tell. I honestly had no idea. It's like, I don't know if this is a bot or this is a real person, right? And that's scary. That's scary to think of. Like, as we're progressing, like, we have no clue who any of these things are.
You started communicating with it, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I got a fake girlfriend experience. No, thankfully for me personally, thankfully I have a wife in the house. So I don't have to like reach outside of my house to get that kind of companionship. But I think there are people who do suffer from, social anxiety, or maybe they're a little awkward and they get turned down because they don't fit a certain mold that people are looking for. And so for that person, there is extremely lonely. I can totally understand how they would reach out to something as fake as it might feel to us. To them, that's what they got. Like, I understand that. It makes me sad, but I understand the mentality behind it.
Yeah, well, Richard Coleman on Facebook Live brings up an interesting point. Welcome back, Richard. Haven't seen his name in a while pop up on our Facebook Live. Yeah.
Let's see what he says.
He's been isolated from us.
Exactly. Why is such a far-fetched ideal that technologically isolated society is easier to control? Uh, okay. I guess,
If you
in a
won't do what you
sense,
tell me, he's getting on the machine. The machine
yeah,
is doing this.
yeah.
You know,
Um,
well, I mean, that is true.
the way I read
Okay.
that is some sort of mythical powers that be are manipulating things, which I guess could be there. But I think that at the end we're all kind of responsible for that too, though, right? Like we're the ones who are consuming it and utilizing it. We are the ones that are being more and more okay with distance between human connection.
You know, he brings up a really interesting point. I'm gonna take it in a
Sure.
different direction if you don't mind,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
because I start thinking about the non-social media snobs. Like the one.
Non-social media
There's
snob.
there are
So
two
what does that
types
mean?
of snobs that I tend to to get an interaction with in my travels. One is I don't do social media.
Oh, the
I
ones
don't do
that are
social media
somehow better than you.
snob. Yeah, well, not
Yeah.
better than you, but just better than I'm
Sure.
not like the rest of the world. I don't do
Yeah, I
social
don't
media. That's one
participate in
type.
that.
And there's another one like, yeah, I don't watch any news or television programming. I don't do television and stuff like that. In other words, like they don't get all the news that they spout off that they give you, like all their understanding of all the. By the way, it always sounds like something you must have heard, because how else did you not? How
Right.
did you know that was even happening in the world? Yeah, but I don't watch news. I don't hear any news. Well, no outlets. Like, where did you get? I read it as if I'm reading it from the source, as if
Yeah.
okay, so TV and news and all that is manipulated, but when you go to the source, that's not. The sources don't have the same agenda. You do realize that
Yeah.
it's the same, right?
Of
You can
course.
lie in print just like you can lie on talking heads. You know what I mean? But
Sure.
those are two type of snobs out there. So what I'm thinking is going back to his response. I always think there's a marketing issue, whether it be to control you for government or to control you to buy a product. I mean, yes, selling anything media related typically is selling you soap of some type.
Right.
Buy this soap or buy that soap, right? That's kind of
Sure.
the norm. Advertisers do control the media. So
Right.
maybe he's coming from that angle. Maybe that's where that angle that
Sure.
he's coming.
Sure. I just know that technology is as good as it has been. It's also been I think a driving force in making
Right.
us more lonely and more disconnected as a society.
Right.
Like I think
Right.
that in many ways it's helped, but I think in many ways it's also hurt. And we've proven that we're really not skillful in
Yeah.
using it. Like
You know,
we have not learned how to adapt that to our lifestyle. We instead adapted to it, if that makes
right.
sense.
Well, let me tell you something, bro. I watch 90 Day Fiance. It's one of my little guilty pleasures. I think it's a funny show. I think
Sure.
it's helped some people that probably don't do very well in the local market get them a mate.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people that I think
Sure.
it's helped. There's some really socially awkward people that I think do very well in a different type of communication. And then other
Sure.
people that are really good with interpersonal stuff probably don't do as good online. Um,
Right.
I don't know. So I think there's a place for all types. I don't think that there has to be just one or the other. But I think anytime you put all your eggs in one basket, and in this case, if the only interactions you have are through your media outlets, I think can hinder you a little bit. But at the same time, it can nourish you. I'm thinking
Sure.
of people that may not have the ability to get out and get mobile and maybe they live in an isolated part of the world. I think that's phenomenal that
Right.
they're able to have friends from all over the world and interactions from with people all over the world. I remember you and
Well,
I
let's
had this
speak on that.
conversation a long time ago.
Yeah.
But before you
Well,
go on
let's
that point,
speak on that real quick.
okay,
Right
go
there.
ahead.
Do we have less friends? You mentioned it. Do we have
Yeah,
less friends?
well, that's the question, right? Because I think that to some people they have more friends. I mean, we're defining friends from our
Sure.
perspective of what a friend is. But to
Correct.
someone else, and I remember you and I having this conversation, and
Yeah.
you were on the side of, no, you think that technology allows them to have, healthy and good relationships with other people if if in a personal way they weren't able to have them. And I agree with you. I think, yeah, you're right, because there's individuals that thought I'm so awkward and weird Nobody in my town is the same. And then they get online and they find someone that's awkward and weird in their town. And all of a sudden they're having a healthy connection. And then we both started talking about, remember, I think that was at the time where we were playing that Red Dawn or Red Dead Redemption or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, there's darn brats out there that get their butt kicked and everything they would say. And then all of a sudden you play with it and they're just knocking you around, right? Remember I said, like, there's people that get really tough and they think they're good. That's why I don't like playing with others. Like if I play a video game, I like just playing a video game by myself. If I start playing with the people out there, then I got to deal with their dysfunction and their wish that they could slap me around in real life. But no, they could slap me around in a video game because I'm an old man. I can't play that thing like them. So I think there's those people. I think there's those people that find their tribe online. And that's okay. If you found your tribe online, great. If you found your connectivity online, I really think that that's okay. I just don't think it's for us that have already got past a certain learning curve. I think it's harder for us. I think I enjoy the way that we were raised because that's what we had. That's my frame of reference. But that's also why some people love White Castle. That's also like why I love Whataburger. I grew up eating Whataburger in the youth years. So forever, Whataburger is a mecca to me.
Right.
You know what I mean? And for some people up in the Northeast, White Castle is that mecca. Even though you go to White Castle, that burger sucks, bro. But if you grew up, eating White Castle, then that's a special thing for you.
Well, so there's an interesting, from a spiritual perspective, right?
Right.
I think the pendulum has swung maybe a bit too far. And what I mean is for the individual that was isolated for circumstances maybe outside their control.
Right.
Going from having literally nothing and just sitting in your house all day to now being able to go online and interact and communicate with other human beings, that's phenomenal and great. And I think that you'll absolutely think that's connection. However, I don't think it's just those people anymore, right? Like I think the average everyday people are utilizing those same tools more so than they've ever used before. And studies do show, I mean, happiness studies are hard to do. I get that. But polls have been taken and things of that nature. And collectively, we are not as happy as we used to be. And I don't think that those things are disconnected. I think we tell ourselves we're happy, but in reality, we're comfortable, right? Like we're comfortable with our current status. And we know what to expect. It's predictable. And so we think that we're okay with that. But, if I think back in my life, my happiest times are never alone. If I think of my best memories, I look back and like, hey, man, that was the coolest part, or that was it's never by myself. It's with other people. And I think that we have to allow.
But how many people do you need? Trinity?
I don't know. I don't know if there's an answer to that question.
Well, when you said your happiest times.
I agree with my happiest times with other human beings.
But I really don't think our connection has to be this way unless we've had it that way. Like in other words, like you don't know what you miss until you miss it, right? Like I remember when I was a kid talking to my cousins from Puerto Rico and being like, don't you miss the snow? Like you've never been in the snow, because I used to ski, right? And they'd be like, I've never had it, so how can I miss it? And it dawned on me, you're right. You've never been in the snow, you've never skied, so you don't miss it. You don't, like, it's nothing to you. Does that mean their life is less than mine because I've had snow and they haven't? No, it's just different. So you adapt differently. I would argue there's a different. Animals adapt different. Yeah, but animals adapt different too. Like the giraffe. The giraffe doesn't adapt the same way an elephant does the same way a leopard does, the same way a lizard does. They all adapt in their environment, right? So if your environment is that of this, if this is the only way communication is in the future, if in 2099, this is the only way people interact, I don't want to judge their level of happiness to our level of happiness simply because we had the blessing of being able to be close to each other and touch. Because as long as that brain is fooled, as long as that dopamine spits out what it needs to spit out, as long as that serotonin spits out the way it needs to spit out, and those receptors are interacting, then the reality is reality. It's just like a phantom arm, right? If you get your arm cut off and still feel like it's there and still feel the pain of that arm, that is truth. That is your truth, right? That arm exists, even though that arm is completely gone.
Sure. To an extent, right? Like I would agree with that 100%. However, one can make the argument that at some point they have had connection, right? Because we weren't born in test tubes, so we did have family. Or
in 2023, we're not born in test
20,
tubes.
yeah.
That is right
But
around the corner, son. That is with all the
but robots don't
all
raise
the
us.
IVF
Robots
and
don't.
all that stuff.
Yeah, but robots
they
aren't
will.
changing our diapers.
But they will.
And we'll have that discussion when it gets there. But up to
They
this
will.
point, we still had some sort of connection as human beings. Like we can't deny the fact that we got to have a connection with humans. We have to have that. Like you can't live without love. You can live without physicality and stuff, but you can't live without love. It will eventually take you down.
But Trinity, even you said that they've already created like AI friends that are your girlfriends. That's how you started this whole thing.
Which leads me to.
And by the way, if that exists, I guarantee you can toggle the button that says, "Do you want her to argue or not argue? Do you want her to nag or not nag? I mean, do you want her to agree with you all the time?" Well, that's what I'm saying. Like you're saying that I can program. I mean, come on, man. Are you serious? Like,
well, that's what leads me to my next
in Unreal, but
sure, but that what leads me to the next one is touch starvation, right? Like,
this is interesting one.
We need touch as human beings, right? Like, touch is something that's it does bring people closer together, right? It releases endorphins, it releases oxytocin, the feel good hormone. It also there's been some studies that have shown. I don't remember what school it was, but they did some shock treatment type stuff, and they had control group, physical touch, and ones without. The ones that actually had touch, where they're able to hold somebody's hand or whatever, the pain was more bearable. So it makes physical pain easier to deal with when you have touch from another person. And I can tell you for myself, even life feels different, man, when somebody touches you. Like, and I don't mean for you other individuals, get your head out the gutter. Like, I'm not talking about
you put me there. You put me there in 2 seconds. Yeah. Don't blame me.
Yeah, I was already there too. I'm a dude. I get it. But no, I mean, just even hugs, right? Hugs, a simple touch of an arm, or like that human connectivity, human touch. I don't think you can duplicate. I really don't. The idea that somebody values me enough to be around me and interact with me on that level, I do think that there's something to be said for that. I do, and I think that the more we technologically distance ourselves from other human beings and remove that from our lives, I think the more unhappy we become.
This could be a really difficult one to tackle, because you can't. We can all touch ourselves. We all know
it's not the same.
that I'm just saying. I'm not saying same, but yet still pleasurable, right? And if something can be pleasurable physically or brain juice wise, you know what I mean? All of our brain juices are flowing, right? You know what I mean?
I don't think you can release oxytocin by touching yourself, can you? Like, I don't think it releases.
I don't know about any study on oxytocin, so I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on oxytocin.
Or dopamine. However, can I release dopamine by just?
Yes.
Well,
yes.
Yeah. I guess from a sexual sense, right? Sexual pleasure.
Yes. Dopamine is released.
Sure.
And so if that is happening, right? If the brain is still able to enjoy self-touch, even sometimes probably even faster, more so than external touch, then psychologically, if you add all those other things that you had just mentioned, AI communication, AI physicality, fake, like, dude, we all know they build fake men and women. I mean,
sure.
They don't, again, that don't come with the stuff that we act like we don't like. You know what I mean? If it only came with the positive and none of the negative, it's an interesting conversation. That's what leads to the
Wives, basically.
It leads to the kind of movies that they make that says, God, man, no, because you kind of want the disagreement. We don't know how much we want the disagreement until we don't have it anymore. We don't know how much we want the other person's point of view until the only thing that we're around is people with our point of view, right? So life could be very different and boring. But again, that's coming from the perspective of us that have both. When we all know that if the future continues to move in the direction that it's going, it's all going to be about self-soothing. It's all going to be about self-touch. It's all going to be about this kind of perfect interaction, even though in our sense of reality, we're like, that's not perfect, man. I mean, to not have a Dana, to not have an Angel, that's awkward to us. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be awkward or different
Right.
for the future us. And that's what I think that's where we can't slow this train down.
Sure.
And really, again, we go back to, well, how many people do you really need, right? I mean, really,
Yeah.
apparently I just needed one, because before Dana, I thought I needed every single one that was out there. I was pissing on every tree. You know what I mean? Like, I just
Sure.
thought, if I can urinate on it, I'm urinating on it. And then all of a sudden I find Dana, and then she's the only leg that I'm urinating on. You know what I mean? Like, that sounds weird, but it's true. You know what I mean? It's like, that's not true, actually. So don't take me literal. So what I'm saying is that's the only one that I'm okay with, having a physical interaction with. I mean, that's but I wouldn't have thought that to be true either at one time.
Right.
If you would have told me, Louis, you're going to become an older man with just one individual, that's the only individual you're going to have physical interaction with, I would have said, well, shoot me now then, because who the hell wants that? You know what I mean? I wanted Hugh Hefner's lifestyle. I didn't know that my whole house was going to be full of women, but it was all going to be ones that are directly related to me. I didn't know that was the house full of women I was going to have.
Sure.
2 daughters and a wife. I was like, wait a minute, this is not what I was saying. This is not what I was saying at all. So watch out what you pray for.
Sure. Yeah, I don't. So there was a time in my life where I was so bitter and angry and like just aggressive, where I never even would have questioned this, and I would have argued against it and saying that's BS. I don't need any of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing that kind of really changed my mind on that, or at least started chipping away at that egotistical way of looking at it, was I don't remember if it's the Harborough. I think it was a Harborough is what it was called, the monkey study. That was the first one that was like, okay, like I was thinking about it analytically and logically. And so the monkey study, for those of you who aren't aware of, basically they took monkeys from their moms, and they gave the monkey the choice, this area or this compartment or this compartment. And this one, they had a mother monkey that was not comfortable or not beautiful to look at. It was like a wiry robot looking thing, but it had food and water, so it had the things necessary to sustain life, like actual needs were there. But on the other side, there were no food and water, no needs that were met, but the monkey was comfortable. It had like I think they wrapped it in like felt or something like that. But bottom line, it was comfortable. It was more tender and soft. And before I read the end of the study, obviously you guys know where I'm going with this, but when I was first looking at it, I had no idea. So I made my assumptions of course, it's going to go to the food and water. Like, why would it, Until I kept reading and I realized, like, no, it didn't go to the food and water. It went to the love. It went to the tenderness. It went to the softness. And that blew my mind when I first read that. And then when I look now, even with my own kids and my own self, like, yeah, dude, I think that we underestimate the power of that and how good that feels and how it changes the whole direction of your life. And that, in that sense, I think that's what, FaceTime and robots and shit can't give you. It can't give you that. It can try, it can mimic the best it can, but if you look around and all the studies that we're seeing, it's not working, right? Like a lot of the stuff that we're having, like episodes of violence, episodes of mass shootings, and it's kind of going up, right? And you look at the media, we're all arguing, we're all angry. So I would argue that it's not working. We're not getting happier. We're not getting more loving and more connected. And so I don't think we can bury our heads in the sand and act like that's not a component of it. I do believe it's a component of it. There was I can't make the joke on here because it's Dharma time, but there was a joke that I used to make, and I'm probably I guarantee you and I have talked about in the past. There's an activity that could take place that I think would end a lot of wars in the world right now. There'd be a lot of happier people if a certain activity would take place more often. But my whole point is that there's more than just a scientific approach of releasing oxytocin or dopamine or whatever. There is a certain thing that connectivity, true genuine connectivity, comes with that I don't think that we can ignore.
So what you're saying, Trinity, is that instead of me just providing money food and beverages to Dana, I have to be warm, fuzzy, and soothing.
Yes. You got to tend to her emotional needs as well. Yes.
Duly noted.
Well, because anybody could get food and water and shelter. I mean,
What you just
what
said,
separates you?
I didn't know
What
that I was
separates
involved
you
in a
from
monkey
them?
study. I had no idea
Yeah.
that I was
Sure.
being the bad monkey. I thought I was being a warm, cuddly monkey, and now you're telling me don't just be the
I don't know.
wiry, ugly monkey, Louis.
I don't know what you're being.
I was kidding.
But
I'm gonna go home and be warm and soothing in about 15 minutes. Then
sure. But I know
want
you
her to
are,
stay.
right? Yeah, well, we joke, but I know you are, right? Like I've talked to you over the years, and I've known you, and I've seen how you are with your family and things of that nature. So you get it, regardless of what everybody else thinks or hears. Like, you get it, and I think you'd be the first to admit that your life would have less meaning if that all just disappeared tomorrow. And
Because
I would
I've
agree.
had it though, but I agree with everything you're saying. It's just that playing devil's advocate a little bit, but also because I know we've had it. So since you've had it and it's obtainable, and because even if you haven't had it, if you're able to witness it in others, well, that's what social media does do. Is it gives you snapshots into other people's world or other realities that can exist. So it makes you, if you're one of these that compare your reality to what you're witnessing, that's when it can be uncomfortable. It can be, unhealthy, right? If you just allow other people's existence and reality to be theirs and accept your reality for being yours, then that's even better. It's like in our business, right? I constantly have conversations in our business world where I say I don't count other people's money. So if you make money off me and things that I do, that's fine. I mean, that's your money. I don't count your money. I count my money. And it's the same kind of I don't count your happiness. I count my happiness. So if you're happy doing what you're doing and that gives you joy and pleasure, then that's your joy and pleasure. I can only respect and admire and accept my pleasure, my level of happiness. And I think that's, if anything, I think that's where the teaching should be. So in this touch starvation thing, I think there could be a touch starvation if you've experienced touch and then have the absence of touch. But if you've never experienced the touch in the first place, it's
Is
you've
that even
already
possible?
experienced. Yeah, in a way, because when I was there, and there are studies to that. Like, so when I was born,
Well,
I
yeah,
was
babies who hug more do better.
I was in an incubator the first 2 weeks to 30 days of my life.
That explains a lot.
That explains a lot. Explains a lot. I had only nurses touched me in all those first times, right? And it was always a different nurse, different shift. It explains everything. No, I was kidding. So then I was connected to my mother. So I had more interaction. I'm a daddy's boy. I had more interaction with my dad. My dad was able to I guess he was able to change my diaper and everything first and all that stuff before my mother was even permitted. So if you look at those kind of studies that they do, from the incubator babies like me to the ones that right away were put on their mom and nourished by their mom right to begin with, and there's studies about breastfeeding compared to not breastfeeding. There's all kinds of studies. Yes, we perform better, we have closer bonds, we have a different kind of bond. All that stuff is true. It's when we compare it to, is that better or worse? That's when I'm getting involved with my comments. It's like,
well, I would argue
don't know
though,
what's better or not better because we don't know what world they're going to have to live in. For instance, if I have to exist, and we all just did it, all of us had to exist in a COVID-19 shutdown world.
Yeah.
Those of us that were already okay with the ones that we were around, that small little net of people, and being close to only that small little net of people, we did great. I did great in COVID-19. I had my daughters, I had my wife, and I loved them all already. But if you were already needing outside and what you had inside was bad, horrible, abusive, destructive, toxic, you were in hell. You had to stay right there with the same toxic, annoying people, and you couldn't leave them or go anywhere. You hated COVID-19.
Sure. So I want to address a point that and I want to do my own devil's advocate approach here.
Okay.
Um, I think that the brain is wired a certain way, right? Like we're built to function a certain way. And I think we can adapt to certain things, but adaptability doesn't necessarily mean happy, right? And what I mean is the idea that just because we haven't had it, then we can't miss it type of thing. Um, I'll speak for myself, right? There was a time in my life where I would have tried to convince anybody that I was 100% happy and I was fine. I didn't need any of this stuff. I'm happy. I'm fine. Until I grew up, matured, and actually got those things that I didn't think that I wanted or I didn't think I needed, I realized I wasn't happy at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would argue that the way we're wired, you're not going to be. You can convince yourself that you are. You can lie to yourself, but there's gonna be an itch that's not being scratched, and you might not know what that is. Well, that's what it is. Is you're not getting that connectivity. You're not getting that touch. You're not getting the closeness of another human being, because we are social creatures, right? That's how we've survived over these thousands of years. We've come together in villages. We've moved together. We've migrated. That's what we're like, thousands of years of evolution. That's what we're meant to do. So this idea that we're the one in a million that doesn't need all that, I think is a lie. I'm not saying it's not a lie that you can't convince yourself into believing, but you can piss on me all day long and tell me it's rain. We both know it's not. And so this idea that you can convince yourself that you're happy. You know how many people in my life that I've heard, and I've even done it myself, trying to convince that we're happy, we don't need this, only to find them years later with that exact same thing, and they're like, "Oh, I love it." Of course. Now you might not have thought that that's what it was, but that's part of maturation, right? That's part of getting older and realizing and letting your walls down and being open to those experiences.
Right.
Then you start to realize, like, holy shit, this is what I needed all along. I wasn't really happy back then. I thought that I was, but if you look at my behavior, it's pretty obvious that I wasn't. I can name at least 5 people off the top of my head right now who claim that they're happy, but when you look at their behavior, it says otherwise. But they'll sit there and argue with you and tell you that they're happy. Happy people don't do these things. And so, and whether you experienced it or not, you can't change the way your brain is wired and how we are set to perform as a species, right? Are there outliers?
Pack animals.
Sure.
We're pack animals, man. Can't change that.
I mean, and are there outliers? Yeah, they're called sociopaths, right? Like there's something wrong with them. Like the average normal healthy person, and when I say healthy, I mean there's no deficits, right? Like I don't mean the person who's been through trauma and can't heal. I'm talking about a normal healthy person. That's not how we're wired. And so if you try to go through life without that connection, you're gonna always feel like something's missing. You might not know that's what it is, but it's gonna be that. So that's the only way I would push back on some of the stuff that you're saying.
No, it's not necessarily pushback. I think I agree with that as well. And I do know that like when you say the itch, you got an itch that needs to be scratched. And I do know that my nails rubbing up on my skin don't feel as good as Dana's nails rubbing up on my skin. No. So I get it. You know what I mean? I would much rather her scratch my back than me scratch my back. Sure. So there's look, at the end of the day, we are adaptable creatures. Sure. So even in that scenario that you were mentioning about our level of happiness when we were younger, thinking that we were happy, your perspective can go only as far as your brain allows you to understand the boundaries, right? So if those were the boundaries you had, or if you're walking around with a cup, you didn't know it was full. Like I used to think that I got mad easy. I used to say, oh yeah, I go from 0 to 100 real quick. I didn't know I was walking around with a full cup in the first place. So to the real definition of anger, I was already angry. Only I didn't know that. I thought I was happy. So as soon as one more drop got added, boom, it was spilling over, and I just thought, oh, I have a quick fuse. I didn't know that I was already angry and not very content with the world or myself. I thought I was. So I understand your point of what you're saying, but if you have zero knowledge of that being there, like, and if the boundaries are just from here to here, then that's all you have to play with. So you're happy, maybe not to the same level of happy as you are now, because now you're able to compare it to a different measure. But from what you had, yes. In other words, did your child walk far? Yeah, if a child's 5 years old and they walked all the way to the front yard, what? That's far. If they walked
Yeah,
across the street, that was far because their level
sure,
of far was within the house, right? Now,
sure.
as you get older, no, walking all the way to the mall, now that's far. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
Sure.
the same way distance is relative in human existence as you get older, so is distance in the brain from one emotion to another emotion. The more that they get spread out, the more emotions you experience in your life, and the further that boundary takes it, then it becomes very different. And again, but it also leads to the proof that as you experience more, as you have different understandings, then it's going to take more to get the level of pleasure that you really want or to have to experience. Don't you remember the first time you actually did have interactions with a female that all of a sudden that changed now that's the new normal. It can't go backwards from there.
Of course.
You don't try to do less than that. Now you got to do that and more now. You can't go backwards.
Sure.
We're not going to go back to holding hands and me be satisfied for a while. That's we can't go back there. Now every time I see you, we got to do that plus more. You know what I mean? So it's the same. It's like once you push the boundary, that boundary is at a new point.
Yeah, I just I mean, to me that's an unprovable thing, right? Because
and it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be because for the sake of the show, and for the sake that you brought it up, we want all of us to understand that we need each other in today's age, in today's world, in today's understanding. You can't live in that AI 2099 that doesn't exist yet. You're not that person. You might, if you think you can be that person now, it's only because you're upset. You're frustrated. You've been hurt. Something within your life is not pleasing you for whatever reason. And
that's your pain talking.
That's your pain talking. But you are not 2099, so you can't live in a 2099 world. And that's what we're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And we got by the way, so I don't get locked out because they're about to shut this down. Are we close to wrapping up this show?
Yeah, I'll wrap it up right now.
More?
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
don't you lock me in here, bro. I already see them walking around locking up.
Well, you got any final thoughts before we?
I'm gonna have to spend the night here at the station.
We'll just stay on there. We'll make it a sit-in.
Don't you lock me in here, man. Hold on. He's got the lock it
24-hour sit-in. Yeah, you got any final thoughts before we cut it off?
I Johnny Cashed it, bro. I said what I had to say, and I'm done singing.
All right. Well, before I give my final thoughts, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's tuned in. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff. I know I say it every time, but it truly does help. It helps get the word out there. It makes the little algorithm think that people want to hear what we have to say. Yeah, I think, you kind of hit it on the head. We have to get out of this mindset that somehow the more isolated, the more independent we are, the better. It's not serving anybody. The more independent you become, the more isolated you become, the more lonely you start to become, and the less happy you'll start to become, whether you realize it or not. You can define it however you want, but anger and rage and stuff is only sustainable for so long. As much as we might think that anger and competitiveness and all this other stuff is a great motivator, it pales in the comparison on the lengths that will go for love. Love is by far a better motivator, and there's tons of examples and studies and everything else throughout the history. I'll let you guys look that up, but we have to be open to that. We have to get rid of this idea that we're all these isolated things walking around. We are, as Louis said many times on different shows, we are our brother's keeper. It is kind of our responsibility to look out for those around us. It doesn't mean that you have to start, bending over backwards and giving away everything and stuff like that. No, you give what you can, right? But financially, there's a limit to that. But as far as our interconnectedness with other people, we're all capable of that. We can ask somebody how they're doing. We can give a hug to somebody that we know. And in today's world, ask for consent first. But the point is, you can say to somebody, "Hey, do you need a hug?" Yeah, go ahead. I had to put it in there, man.
That should have been done in every generation, by the way. Just a disclaimer.
Exactly.
It should have always been done.
consent is an important thing. But no, I mean, so acknowledging the feelings of those around you, acknowledging that they might need a hug, acknowledging that you might need a hug, and not being afraid of asking for one. Those are all like important. Don't undermine how important those really are, because they really, really, truly are. We're not islands. We're not isolated. Everything from a logical perspective, in the sense of you didn't design and make those clothes, you didn't create the house, or you didn't build the Wi-Fi network that you're listening to this on, all the way down to the emotional one, is it's not a bad thing to need somebody. We all need somebody, right? Like, I need my family, I need my friends, varying degrees. Will I die tomorrow? No, but I might die inside a little bit. If you took away all my family and my friends, I wouldn't be the same person. So in that sense, yeah, I would die. The me that I am right now would not exist if you got rid of every single friend and every single family member that I have. It wouldn't be the same. And so I think that's something we got to treasure. And that doesn't mean that you're weak. That doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. That just means that you're human and you're living the human experience. So I think that's all I got, man. I think that's enough. Today's Friday, so we have a Monday show coming up, right? We're doing the couch on Monday. Sometime between now and Monday, hopefully.
I don't know. I gotta
Yeah.
look at the schedule.
So, yeah, we'll figure it out. But if you want to stay up to date, follow us on social media. He is at the Dope Doctor. I am at the Dharma Guy. We are at Dope and Dharma. Once again, YouTube Live, Facebook Live, Twitch, or any of your podcasting platforms. You can find us there. And if you have any show topics or things you want to ask, by all means, send it to us, and we will we'll do our best to cover it. So, anyways, that's all I got. Now that you know better, do better. Peace.